today's special guest I met approximately 30 years ago at the city of Ballarat. From then, he has since gone on to be president of the IPWA Australasia between 2015 and 2017, board member of the IPWA Australasia 2010 to 2017, president of the Victorian Division 2013-2015. He is now currently the chair of the Asset Management Committee for the Institute of Public Works. He is now consulting. I'm pleased to present our guest for today, Ross Goyne. When did I first meet you? It must have been the early 90s.
I would think it's either the late 80s or early 90s, because that's when I came across Roger Byrne.
Yep.
And I do remember being down the GHD office at some stage,
okay.
but I can't actually, I can place being in the office, but I can't place exactly what year it is, because we're talking 30 plus years now. So
yeah, I know. It's scary, isn't it?
Yes.
It's actually that would have been the Lonsdale office. Was it Lonsdale? No, not Lonsdale. It was the, I can't remember. Back of LMT, the road that way, near the market.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I certainly remember
Franklin
being
Street.
down
Franklin
there
Street.
up with you.
Yeah, Franklin Street. Before they moved to Lonsdale. Okay, that's cool. And I remember the day I got locked out of the car park. I remember that well. You happened to drive past. Oh, how am I going to get home? But anyway, so for the sake of the viewers, can you just explain a little bit about your career, starting from whenever? Because I've known you since the city of Ballarat, but you would have obviously been there.
Yep.
In the industry.
Yeah, so I started work in February 78 in the Shire of Balranald. So it was only had a very small population, but it had 8,500 square miles, as it was in those days, of river frontage down on the Murrumbidgee, and then right up north into the backcountry scrub. So I cut my teeth in engineering there. My first job was to survey a road. Of course, there was only me.
Yep.
So ranging poles and things like that, and chainsaws to cut your way through the whipstick mallee. But it was a fantastic experience. I was shown how to drive graders, bulldozers, etc. by the staff. And when I do a design, when I redesigned the aerodrome, and they were, I was trying to get them to shape the intersection, which is quite complicated. And I was asking the grader driver to cut a little bit off. He said, "You get in and do it." So we go off to the side, and I realised, and you know, I did a bit of grader work and whatever, just learning, and I realised how the questions as a new engineer, how did you knew in theory how to implement, was I certainly underestimated the skills involved by the practical plant operators and staff, and I learnt to have a huge respect of them. So after Balranald, I was at Balranald for 2 months, and the Shire engineer got ill, and 2 months out of uni I became acting Shire engineer. So that was, they said, "You'll have to attend a council meeting." And I said, "Oh, okay, what are they?"
That'd be fun.
So I had a lot of experience, and I got into the political side of it fairly early because of that. As soon as I became acting Shire engineer, by the way, I was also the senior assistant Shire engineer at the same time. I had to do all the field work and everything else, because they're very small councils. So then I moved to the Shire of Young, further up into New South Wales.
Yep.
Which was a lot of excellent road building, bridges in that country that had very fast runoff from the hills. You could be working on a job, have plant equipment in the creek, and it could be fine where you were, and you could hear the water roaring around the corner, and everyone had to get out quickly. So, you know, winning your own rock, you know, bringing in powder monkeys, blowing the rock, B10s to rip it up, and then bring in the crusher plant and then build the road. So really good practical experience. Then I moved back to Victoria to major projects engineer at the City of Swan Hill. And that was fantastic. I was fortunate to be involved in a major rehash of the water treatment plant and pump station, rebuilt the entire swimming pool complex to the Richard Swimming Pool Complex, which I see is still there. So that was in the early 80s. Also that if you go to Swan Hill, you see a great big wine glass water tower up on Tower Hill. That was one of my projects to build that and the low-level storage. So I had a lot of good experience in project management at Swan Hill. Then I moved to the City of Maryborough as Deputy City Engineer. So that was around about mid-80s. I think that's when I came across or started working. We had the water industry as well, and it was pre-amalgamation, so we had water industry involvement. And I was fortunate enough to be involved in building a whole new wastewater treatment facility at Maryborough because of the new Allen's Sweets factory coming to town, which was a massive deal for Maryborough. But the relevant thing there is this is where I got into asset management, and that's when I met you and Roger, etc. And I was encouraged in that way. So you may remember the Eagle GIS software.
Yeah, I certainly do.
I was able to convince the leaders, the executive, and the council that we should invest in an IBM RISC computer, which is probably less powerful than our current phones, running Eagle software, which is the same as the Ballarat Water Board, as it was called back then.
Yep.
We dived in and digitised all of our drainage plans, which had our sewer network in it. We then picked up all the levels and turned it into a 3D model. It was quite out there. But that's when we realised we effectively generated a detailed inventory. And that's when I came across yourself and Roger. And so this was when asset management hit my radar back in sort of about 89, I think it was. And then I became the city engineer in 1992 and won an overseas study tour to go to the United States and Canada studying asset management and GIS. And I came back all excited about how advanced they were over there, and this is exactly what I thought could be doing. So I did a paper in 1993 to the state conference, Asset Management, the Challenge of the 90s. Well, it took well into the 2000s to get any traction, but it's interesting to see that how far back now the United States and Canada are relative to where they were then. So it's a lesson that we need to be aware of in Australia, that we don't fall backwards, because it can happen very quickly.
Yeah, it does, and that's a problem. Yeah.
So after Maryborough, where did I go then? Oh, that's right. Then amalgamations hit and there was restructures. I won my job back, or a new position back in the executive. But I also, because I had applications out everywhere, I got an offer in one afternoon. I got 3 job offers. So in the end, I chose Moorabool Shire and went to Moorabool Shire. We had about 3 CEOs there, and I had 3 different jobs there. And this is when they brought in the client provider type stuff and CT, competitive tendering and all of that period. And then my last job in local government was the City of Ballarat. I was the General Manager of Customer and City Services. So that was a good experience for me, because I was looking after aged and disability services, family daycare, sale yards, Ballarat Works. So a whole range of staff from different. Customer service was one of the ones I got very involved in. And it was a great experience. And I left there I was there for 3.5 years or so, left in 2005 and set up my own business, and I've been consulting since 2005, but pretty well retired now.
Yeah, lucky you. Well,
Not easy.
yeah, just listening to you, we had a very parallel process because I came out in '82, became an engineer, and then went to Scroggies, although I was in the consulting all the way through, um, and then did the water and sewage at Dalesford. So
Yes, I think the water and sewage industry were the first ones to move into the GIS mapping,
yes, yeah.
and effectively asset management spun out of all of that.
From then on, obviously, having became the operations manager at Dalesford, I ended up at GHD, where it all began. And I remember the interview because I'd looked at it. I saw the ad in the paper before Christmas, and I put the application in, and I get a phone call, and can you come down? I said, I'll come down right now. I went down there, muddy all over because I've been in the trenches and all the rest of it, and straight in there. And Roger was doing his best, talking away. And I says, Roger, what is this asset management I've applied for? It sounded great in the paper. I said, what is it?
Well, it was great sounding.
Yeah. And then I realized that I'd already been doing it at Dalesford because we were, we had a dam, Hepburn Dam, I think it was, which was up for um, destruction. We had to bring that back in because of the droughts and everything. We had to bring in some of all the old infrastructure that went back 100 years. We had to reinstate those. So I was doing all that as well as building all these new wonderful assets. So I was basically doing it and dealing with the obviously the guys in the depot. So it was all good fun.
That's
And
right.
that's where you get your best experience.
The more you get into asset management, particularly infrastructure asset management, as relates to local government, you can actually see tangible outcomes.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
it's done well. So, yeah.
And that's what we'll talk about later on when we look about now and the future. If you want to see more of these videos, go into the Patreon site. That's patreon.com/dropofwisdom and go to the collections folder where you will be able to see the rest of the videos.